Okay, everyone, welcome back. This is our section 1.3, solving equations with variables on both sides. And this is the extra practice. We're going to do about every third problem. So we'll start with number 1. And let's see. I'm going to leave notes again for why I'm doing the things that I do. You can, of course, leave that off on your work. You don't need to do that, but it's good to look at, I think, to understand what's happening. So let's take a look at question 1. I'm going to write that over on the side. So let's take a look at what we have. We're starting off with 12 minus 3x equals negative 6. And I'm going to notice that I have, on the left side and the right side, I've got variables. I've got over here on the left side, I've got minus 3x. Over here on the right side, I've got negative 6x. And I've got to think of those two, what is smaller? Is negative 3x smaller or is negative 6x smaller? And well, the answer is negative 6 is smaller than negative 3. So I'm going to add the inverse of negative 6x. Now, like I said before, I'm going to be writing down on the side, I'm going to write down addition property, just so you know what I did on both sides. You don't have to do that in your own work, but you need to be aware of it. So I've added negative 6x to both sides. Take a look over here. On the right side, I've created a 0 pair right there. That's going to be 0. And on the left side over here, that's not going to be 0. That's going to be negative 3x plus 6x. That's going to be 3x. So that simplifies to 12 minus 3x equals 0. So on the left side here of the equal sign, I've got constant and linear term, and that's equal to a constant. It just so happens that in this case, the constant on the right side is 0. So I'm going to do what I normally do, and I'm going to move the constant term to the left, or sorry, from the left to the right. Remember that here on the left side, we do have a 0 pair. And so the only thing left is going to be a 3x. And on the right side, if we just do the arithmetic, 0 minus 12 is negative 12. Next, we're going to divide by the coefficient, which in this case is 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. And that finishes this problem. I've got x equal to negative 4. Okay, now I said I was going to do every third problem, so let's take a look at question 4. So let's take a look over on the side here, and let's remember that the first thing we need to do is simplify the left side and the right side. Now, if I look at the left side here, this definitely is not simplified, so I'm going to have to distribute the 3/4. Now, I know what you're saying. Man, I don't want to deal with a fraction. This is, how am I going to multiply 3/4? You know, because I got to do 3/4 multiplied by 48. And, you know, I just kind of want to remind you that you don't have to do this all on your own. I'm going to grab Desmos, and I'm going to put a 3/4, and I'm going to multiply that by 48 times 48. And that's going to give me 36. So again, not necessary for you to actually do all of the arithmetic. Now, I prefer that I use Desmos as a calculator, and I think you should be using Desmos as a calculator too, because number 1, it's free, and number 2, it does a lot of the higher order arithmetic operations that we're going to need in this class. So let's get back to the problem. We'll put a 36 there. And then the next multiplication I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to multiply 3/4 multiplied by negative 16x, or multiply 3/4 times 16x, because I'm keeping that minus sign there. So let's do multiplied by 16x. Let's see if that does that for me. No, it doesn't really do that for me. But if I make that a 16, that gives me a 12. So that's indication that what I need over here is actually 12x. Okay. Don't multiply the variable, just multiply the constants. Let's keep on going. The next one is 4 times 4. I'm pretty sure that's 16. And that is from the distribution on the right side. 4 times 4 is 16. And then the next distribution is 4 times 2x, and that's going to be 8x. So plus 8x. And that's going to be simplification. If you prefer, you can also write distribution, because we did distribute on both sides there. And then now I'm going to do what I always do, and I'm going to take a look and see if I can simplify any more. And I notice that I've got constant plus linear, and this is constant plus linear. So the left and the right side are about as simplified as they need to be. Now I'm going to decide which of these is smaller, negative 12 or positive 8. And negative 12 is actually the smaller of the two. So that's going to be the one that I move from left to right. That's the addition property. Add 12x to both sides. Taking a look as I simplify, I can see that what I've got here, 12x, negative 12x plus 12x, that's a zero pair. So if you notice on the right side, I didn't bother writing at all. It's just the left side is just the 36. On the right side, I've got 8x, positive 8x plus 12x, and that's the same as 20x. Now that I've simplified away, I notice that the variable on the right side's got a constant 16. So I use a subtraction property. That simplifies into 20 is equal to 20x. So I'm going to divide both sides by that coefficient of the variable. In this case, it happens to be 20. And that simplifies into x equals 1. Okay, let's put that in its place. That's our question 4. And we're doing every third problem, so our next one here is going to be number 7. This one seems like a pretty easy one. So let's try that. Let's move that over to this side over here. I'm looking at this problem, number 7, and on the left side I see linear plus constant, and on the right side I see linear plus constant. So it doesn't look like there's any simplification to do here. So I'm going to start solving right away. Which one is smaller, do you think? Is 6a smaller or is 3a smaller? And in this case, 3a is smaller. So we're going to subtract 3a from both sides. So we subtract 3a from both sides. And that puts us in a position where the problem looks like what we did on section 1.2, where we have linear term 3a plus constant term negative 4 equals another constant 5. So now we're going to add the constant term to both sides. And now that I have 3a equals 9, I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient, which in this case is 3. So we'll just divide both sides by 3. And that gives me to an answer, which is a equals 3. Okay, let's put that in place here with number 7. That seemed like a pretty easy problem for a question 7. And now I think we want to go with a question 10. So question 10 does look like a little bit more of an intense problem. Let's go ahead and move to the side and work on question 10 together. Here's our question 10. And let's do a little bit of analysis before we actually get started here. I notice immediately that this has got parentheses right here on the left and it's got parentheses right here on the right side. And in front of each of those parentheses is a number. So we're going to distribute into that. So on the left side, of course, we can start off with that 3x because that doesn't really have anything. But over here, I'm going to distribute, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute a -8. Okay, now if I distribute the -8, that's going to kind of change a few things because I'm taking this entire thing and I'm multiplying it by 2, and I'm taking this entire thing and I'm multiplying it by 3. But when I do that, when I multiply by the -8, I'm going to have a plus sign over here on the outside. So -8 times 2x, that's going to be -16x. And then -8 times +3, that's going to be -24. Now on the right side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to distribute the -6. So -6 times 2x, and the -6 multiplied by 5. So -6 multiplied by 2x, that's going to be -12x. And -6 times +5, that's going to be -30. And that was distribution. Now the reason why I wanted on the left side, the reason why I wanted to multiply by a -8 is because then that turns this into a plus sign, and then I no longer need the parentheses. So I'm actually going to get rid of the parentheses now. And that looks like a much cleaner problem. I've got positive, plus, and negative, and you don't really need to do plus and negative. You could just say -16. So here's my distribution. Next, I notice that on the left side, I've got two linear terms, 3x and -16x. So I can combine that together. On the right side, all I have is a linear term and a constant term, so I don't need to do any simplification there. So let's combine those two terms. If I do a 3x minus 16, I'm going to do this on Desmos. What is 3 minus 16? 3 minus 16, that tells me it's -13. So there's no reason for me to have to stress about that. -13x. Don't stress about arithmetic. Really, we're here to learn algebra. We're not here to worry about your arithmetic. Okay. Of course, if you refuse to use a calculator, then that's a different story altogether. So there's our simplification. Okay. Next, which one of these two is smaller, do you think? Is -13 smaller, or is -12 smaller? And if you said -13, you're correct. So I'm going to transform so that I move that -13 to the right side. So add 13x to both sides. Notice that you have created a zero pair right here. -13x plus 13x, that's 0. Now on the right side, we have a -12x plus 13. And if you're not comfortable with that, we can do -12 plus 13, and you're going to see that that's just 1. So that's why we have just x minus 30. There's my simplification. The next thing to do is take that 30, add 30 to both sides, simplify, and we get x equals 6. So question 10, definitely more difficult than the ones that we've done, but still, I don't think it's all that bad. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put number 10 in its spot so you can see it in your notes. And that almost finishes us here today. 11 through 14, we're supposed to figure out, oh, I forgot 11 through 14, figure out if this is One solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions. Let's take number 13 just for our example. So we'll start off with a distribution on the left side. What is half of 10? Because we are distributing now, we're going to do 1/2 times 10. And half of 10 is 5. And then we're going to distribute again. What's 1/2 multiplied by 12? And half of 12 is just 6. So we're going to get 5 plus 6n on the left side. Now what is that equal to? Now on the right side, we're going to have to distribute as well. 1/3 times 15. That's the same thing as 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So this is 5n on the right side. Then we're going to do more distribution. 1/3 times 15. That's the same thing as 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is just 5. All right, so is this an identity? It doesn't look like an identity yet. I do notice that we have on the left and the right side, we've got linear terms, 6n and 5n. Which of those is smaller? Well, of course, the smaller of those two is 5n. So we subtract 5n from both sides. That gets me to 5 plus n equals 5. Then I'm going to take this 5 here, and I'm going to subtract it from both sides so I can solve for n. And that gets me n is equal to 0. So there's a solution to this. So there is one solution. Okay. Remember what it looks like if there is no solution, and remember what it looks like if there is infinitely many solutions. That's in our notes up here. What it looks like if you have no solution, and what it looks like if you have infinitely many solutions. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you for the next one.